everybody. Happy Valentine's Day. Oh, it's been a doozy of a week. We had a snowstorm here. Lots of trying to shift and make things work this week. How are you all? Hello, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day. I hope you guys are doing something fun. Hi, CAD8. Hi. Hi. People are starting to pop on. Oh, hello, Johanna Howard. Big fan of yours, as you know. If this is Johanna, this might be somebody else. I'm really a big fan. She's a maker, a local maker as well, who also leans into some sustainability. So I think this will be a great conversation. I'm in northern New Jersey. I'm Noelle Gatz. I am a designer, an interior designer, a boutique studio owner, and an HGTV host. And I love my area. I live in the Montclair, Glen Ridge, Bloomfield area of New Jersey, right outside the city. Tons of commuters going in and out of the city. Lots of old historic homes. And today, Michelle Vale of Green with Living is joining me. She's has a heart and a passion for sustainable living and really fell into that as she began to renovate her house. So she's going to talk to us a lot about that. So I'm going to just go ahead and invite her. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining. I know it's going to work because we did a practice that worked as well. Hello. Look, I'm going to get centered in my little square as I was discussing with you. You look lovely.
Thank you. You do too. Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you. I did
I've got my
pink.
and I've got my
Oh, look. Hi, Pod.
furball unplanned,
Oh, little puppy butt.
but
Oh, this is the best.
he's gonna
This
show
makes me
his
so
face at some
happy.
point.
It's just the bum and the
Yeah,
tail.
just the
Oh
tail
my
coming out of my head.
That's your little Valentine, your little
Yes.
furry Valentine. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing well. I'm excited we got to meet. You're definitely a go-getter. You're very good at communications and finding people, and I love that. It's so important.
Yeah, I guess that would be one of my strengths.
Your social skills are very good. Your connection skills. We talked about this too, how we just love to connect people.
Yes.
I think that brought us together a little bit too. And obviously, I have a heart for the sustainability. I don't think I have the expertise that you have, but in this industry where, I'm in interior design and you've been in all kinds of things, which I'd love for you to talk to us about, but in both of our collective experiences in this industry, how important it is and also how daunting it can feel, right?
I think that's a good place to start. I mean, my background is fashion. I owned two fashion companies, and when I started my handbag line, we were producing in New York City. We realized with our price points that people weren't seeing the value of being made in New York.
Right.
And so we did a season in Italy, which turned out to be like a disaster.
Oh, no.
Our samples came back with 13 mistakes during August, which was right before Fashion Week. And when we sent our corrections in, they came back the same way. And so then, yeah, so that led us to realize that our bags were actually not being produced in Italy. So we had gone over to the factory. I sent staff over, and they were being made in the same factory that I don't know if you remember the Burberry Warrior bags. They were this very hot Burberry bag that had studs all over it.
Okay, yeah.
So we were oh, we're in good hands. We're with Burberry. Right. And yeah, it wasn't the case. And at that point, this was about 2 years into my business. And I was you know what? I'm bringing everything back to New York. Why do people not value made in New York? And the cachet that comes along with made in Italy. And what we learned was I wound up producing a documentary about this with Nanette Lepore and Anna Sui. What we learned was that right as World War II was happening, all the manufacturing, I think it was 78% of the world's manufacturing was being produced in New York.
Wow.
But then when World War II happened and they cut Paris off from the rest of the world, all the attention from design turned to ready to wear in America. We were the first to move away from couture. And And that created like a lot of editorial stories, but they were focused on the designs, not where the product was made. Now, if you open a Vogue magazine or a Harper's Bazaar, you'll sometimes still see to this day, there'll be a full page ad from the Italian trade highlighting made in Italy. And that is why we know that Italian made goods are, you know, have that cachet. But it never really happened with New York. And so we did this documentary. It's called Make It in Manhattan. It's sorry, no, it's not. It's called it's called Make It in Manhattan, Make It in America, Empowering Global Fashion.
Okay,
Sorry,
got it.
it's been a while. This was like 10 years ago. So, yeah, Make It in America, Empowering Global Fashion. And we talked to, you know, a ton of different designers, Jeff Rudez from J Brand Jeans, Nanette, Yoli Tang, and you know, they talk about the craft and you know, there's most small designers, like I don't know if you recall, like Jason Wu, he was Michelle Obama. He got to start there.
He does some furniture design too now.
Oh, I didn't even know that. But those guys all came to New York to start their businesses because New York's Garment Center, out of the 3 fashion capitals, we're the only one that you can like cut, sew, make a pattern, and produce all within like 5 blocks.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you think it was just really like a popularity, not propaganda, but an advertising and marketing thing that it became cooler to do it overseas?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it just, I mean, overseas, no, I think it was a money thing.
Oh, right.
So
it's cheaper.
thing, right? It's cheaper.
And then they're subbing it out, it sounds like, as well.
Right. Oh, like, so no. So going to Italy is not cheaper, but some of them are subbing it out. Yes.
Right.
Which
is what you found out.
Exactly. And that there's a lot of news stories about that. You know, there are still some houses that are legit, but yeah.
So that's a struggle. That's a struggle. So coming from that industry, you saw a lot about how everything is made, right?
I did.
So that was your background in figuring out, starting with quality, right? And then moving into the sustainability factor.
Right. So I started paying more attention to the sustainability. I started making it in New York. That was like saving a lot on carbon emissions, flying stuff back and forth internationally. And then I actually, a friend of mine worked at Elle magazine, and she and I had been talking. She was working with me on my line a little bit, and we had a totally separate idea. I was really having a hard time with all the waste from the handbags, right?
Yeah.
And if you're not a big designer like, you know, Gucci or whatnot, you have a lot of waste, and those designers are using a lot of that waste to make small leather good items like keychains and wallets. But when you're a small designer, every pattern you make is a big cost. So we couldn't just roll out wallets and keychains. And I started to become very aware of all the waste, and it was really upsetting. And at this time, my kids were young. They were, you know, 4 and 7 about, and I just felt like this isn't right to me.
So what year was this then? This was like
2015.
Yeah, so not very long ago, but
not very long ago. So then we parlayed, and I wound up starting a sandal company that was one material. It was recyclable. We were making it in Maine. We were off to the races. We did a Kickstarter. We succeeded. And then we wound up serendipitously, we partnered with a former CEO of Havaianas flip-flops, and we like crushed it the first season. And then
you had less waste.
No, we had really no waste because it would just be recycled.
Oh, wow.
The sad thing there was like a personal tragedy on one of our team members, and it just wasn't possible to go on due to this.
You had to pivot.
So we
again.
We had to pivot again. And so then at that point, took the summer off. We spent the summer in Europe. I became inspired, and I said, you know what? I just want to do something that I'm passionate about. And during COVID, I just took time to rethink everything. And I was like, you know, since I'm 17, I was very ahead of the game with the whole organic food and all that. And I've just always been very passionate about that.
Yeah.
We raise your kids in Battery Park. Our kids went to the first green school.
Yeah.
So it was like in my blood. And I thought, well, you know what? Like, I'm going to take all that knowledge
Mhm.
and, parlay it into an online platform, because
Mhm.
I feel like there's not a resource where you can go to one site and find a lot of different brands of a lot of different home items.
And it's been
So
curated for you, so you've really been able to go. You're able to meet with those companies, talk to those companies, really make sure you know that they're doing the best they can. So it takes a little bit off our plate as consumers, right?
exactly. And I think that's what the biggest problem is. Like, when I talk to some
Mm.
interior designers, not
Yeah.
yourself, but some, I often get pushback and that nobody really cares. And I actually, push back at them and say, I don't think it's that nobody cares. I think that it takes a lot of time and effort to research these things. I mean, I recall spending like 3 weeks trying to find a toilet bowl cleaner that was like, not like a wooden thing that you would hang
Yeah.
on your, a toilet bowl
Yeah.
brush, not one that you would hang on your
Yeah.
toilet, like that was hokey looking. It's just, who has that
Right.
time, 3 weeks to research and try and find something. So yeah, the idea is, as the website grows, just having more and more products on
Yeah.
there and making it for people to
So it
choose.
gives people a really good place to start because truly, when people are starting, especially with home design and home decor, once they're like ready to go, they're ready to go. And I think that's where some designers might say, "Oh, people don't care." Well, if you offer them the option, they care. Otherwise, they're leaning on your expertise to give them something that's quality and good, and that you've done that research. I have found shockingly, I'm shocked to hear that because maybe I guess there's always people who are stuck in sort of an old way. But definitely, as far as even marketing goes, as far as the industry goes, there is a, um, a
Great.
major need and a major, want for sustainable products, eco-friendly products, organic products, which is different, right? Kind of. I mean, you have to think about some things can be organic, but maybe they're not as sustainably made. So that's another tricky thing. Can you talk about that a little bit? Like what we can
Yeah.
look for,
I
what
mean,
you've been looking for to kind of get the best of both
yeah,
worlds?
I think the thing is I think there's so much pressure to like sign on and be like emphatic about it and go
Yeah.
all in. And I think that terrifies people.
Yeah.
And even when I started, I think on my about page, I even say, like, I'm not here to, like, beat a drum, and I'm not here to be
And
judged.
not to
I'm
tell you
doing,
there's one way.
yeah, I'm doing the best I can. I definitely am making mistakes along the way. And I think that people just need to make baby steps, right? I mean, it's funny.
Yes.
My daughter and I, we go to Home Depot with my husband, and, he'll start filling the cart up, and the two of us just keep putting it back on the shelf because we're like, no, where is that made? What is that?
Yeah.
Do you really need
Yeah.
that, right? Like, you think about all the things that you have in your kitchen, for example, like, how many of that stuff, do you actually use? Like, is it
Right.
really that essential to have, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something that, like, special jars for things, when
Yeah.
you can just like what I do is, like, I just made my overnight oats last night in a reusable jam
Yeah.
jar. It's like, do you really need all this stuff? Like,
Mm.
we're marketed to all the time, like, to buy, right? And it's like, how much of it do you really use? I apply the 80/20 rule to
Mm.
everything in my life, right? I eat a clean organic diet
Right.
80% of the time.
Right.
you
That's your
know
goal.
exactly. I shop for clothing, like, in a very limited way. Like, I would say I spend maybe 20% of my income on clothing or whatever. I'm trying to think how it could apply, through all the categories. But the point I'm trying to make is that, like, you just don't need all this stuff. And that's the first way
Right.
to
So
combat
the first
it.
step is really editing what you need because we are so we are taught to consume. And I think this is again the consumerism is there. We are going to be doing it. How are we going to do it? How are we going to limit it? And how are we going to seek progress over perfection? This is something you and I talked about. It's so important. It's like the main point of I think anyone who's looking to make change. But you don't have to be perfect, but the more you learn and the more you go and the more you progress and the easier it is for you, the
You've gone, you're frozen. Okay.
just happened,
Okay.
but it's
Yeah.
back.
So it's all about education and like what I like to, like the two things that I feel like are the most important things for people to know
Mm-hmm.
is meat consumption,
Mm.
right? It's so easy. I do eat red meat. See, I would be totally chastised
I
for
know.
saying that from
Yeah, in some schools, yeah.
right. But I mean, I'm realistic. Like I like a good hamburger. Like I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie. I'm I'm gonna go grass fed on it, right? I buy from small farms most of the time. I love Porter Road. That's one of my favorites. There, you can
Mm.
order all types of meat from there and they raise them grass fed and organically and all that. Um, I limit my meat
Yeah.
consumption to once a week. That's what I do, right? It's a huge difference because in this country, some people eat meat twice a day,
Yeah.
right? So just that alone
So
makes,
that is
if everybody,
interesting. I learned about that recently too, even from a nutritionist. So talking not just about, plant-based diets being really super healthy for you, and meat has a place in anyone's diet, but there's also, this is where I think it's important, and what would be great, I think people can learn from your page too, is to recognize that there is an element of um, good fortune. There's an element of that not being attainable for everyone all the time. I think they can if they learn the ways to do it, and that's something they're passionate about. There are ways to make it very affordable and still meet all your nutritional goals without spending tons and tons of money. But if you have the privilege of making some of those choices as we do, and I think a lot of people do, it's really interesting to learn about the impact that the meat and meat industry has had on the environment and why it's actually um, more sustainable, right? More affordable in a way, right? And better for the earth in the long run to try to focus on reducing your meat
but
consumption.
here's an interesting kind of curveball
Mm.
is that like almonds, believe it or not, are also a massive contributor to
Wow.
eco-environmental issues because
Yeah.
they use a lot of water
Mm.
to keep the almonds growing and right. So it's like there's an argument too, right? And this is where it gets muddy. It's like,
Right.
well, you're sitting here telling me not to do this, but you're vegan and you eat almonds. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's again, it's back to there has to be some kind of balance in life, and you can't like criticize and judge people because then you alienate them.
Yeah.
It's like education, right? Let me share some of my knowledge with you. Take from it what you will. Even if you
Right.
take 10% of what I say today,
Right.
you're still making
And
better choices.
even
The
if
other
you're taking questions with you, right? Isn't that great? If you have a question with, this almond thing, for example, I'll be like, oh my gosh, that makes me want to look into
right,
that.
right. Maybe you'll debunk it. I don't know.
I'm sure things get, how it is. But again, this is important to know because there are experts in their field doing the research and sharing the information. So it's great to take that and do with it what you will, as you said, and try to learn and be better about it. And then when you hear about something new, maybe you adjust a little bit as well. But again, not to say it's all or nothing.
Exactly. And so then I'll just on the topic of food, and then I'll switch to sort of
Yes,
a home
design.
item. Um, uh, Leftovers, another one that is
Yeah.
such a huge contributor to eco issues, like leftover food. It's right at the top with like flying and eating meat.
Oh.
Like, and it's really sometimes it's hard, but I try to use the methodology. I tell my husband, like, eat what is fresh in the fridge and save like the canned tuna or like if the kids want mac and cheese, like those are items when
We're
food
out.
stuff is low, right?
Right.
But if you have something in the fridge that was made last night or made 2 nights ago, use that, make a salad, make it right, because going in the garbage is just bad for your
Yes.
wallet, bad for the
It's
environment.
so funny how much I notice that I go through great weeks. I think when I'm more involved and I'm less busy, I am way better or just when I planned it out, right, a little bit, I'm way better about using my leftovers and doing all that. And I can tell the weeks when I'm off or something's off or we were throwing a curveball because I see more of that stuff go in the trash. And I'm like always so stressed by it.
You know what? Don't be stressed. The easiest way too is like if you don't want to eat it that way, just throw it in a, you know, in a glass freezer safe dish, and for another, you know, reheat
We
it
do
a
a
week.
lot. You know, we do a lot of this is such a good idea, and I'm sure you do this too, is making soup. We love
Yes.
soup. So we have like bone broth
Yes.
ready, and then we'll like, and sometimes it's the Kirkland bone broth, but like we'll throw all our leftover veggies in there, and it's delicious, guys. Just add some broth. It's good.
100%.
So this is a good segue. It is good. It's important. This is all lifestyle. This is all really important to this live, this pod. I always want to call it a podcast.
Yeah,
I call it really
a podcast too.
kind of a podcast.
I have a podcast today, and
It's
I'm
a
like,
conversation.
yeah.
But it's about everything really, but it's really about creative minds and how we utilize those and having conversations with people that are also casual, but also having them share their information. So it's also about us getting to know you a little bit, which is great. And I think that this is a good way to segue into sort of your discovery of sustainability in home decor, in interior design, in renovation, because you took on a project, right? When you moved out here.
So we moved here from the city. I was living in the city for 20 years. My kids were born and raised there. We lived in Toronto during the pandemic. My husband's Canadian, and my daughter got really used to the green space in Toronto. And when we came back, so my son could graduate with his class, but we realized that like we didn't really need to stay in the city, and my daughter wanted to do her high school years in a suburban or green space. So we bought a house from the 1890s, and we are renovating it sustainably.
Wonderful.
And, you know, yeah, it's a challenge. I mean, I'm really trying to do it as much as possible, like for it to meet green standards as much as possible. Like so far, we've redone our floors on the first floor. We had to put new floors in, but we stained them with Rubio Monocoat stain, which is all zero VOC and Green Guard. Our house is going to be painted the interior in March. So we're going to use, you know, there's a variety of eco-friendly paints. We have used Claire paint for my daughter's room upstairs. I just was actually made aware of a brand called Alchemist that just launched the city.
I don't know.
I'll share it with you.
Look them up.
Another green mom who I just connected with, like I did you.
Yeah.
She shared that about me. Shared that with me. You know, and so, you know,
there's so many options now.
Yeah, debating whether to switch. You know, you're hearing like gas stoves, right?
Yeah.
You're hearing a lot about gas
People
stoves, but then
using induction, but then there's some ways you can't. And some people say it's fantastic. It's again the future. So looking into that.
And I think that where I get like a little bit, because I'm a like very detail oriented and I tend to be a little bit of a perfectionist, and it's like one side I'm like, okay, like yeah, it probably makes sense to move over to, you know, electric or whatever. But then on the other hand, it's like, well, then what happens to that gas stove?
I know.
So I struggle with that, right?
I know.
But I think there's an issue also with like the gas and how it impacts your body, right? Like, you know, from a health perspective. And so another thing that I'm really struggling with is fireplace. So I've done extensive research on fireplaces, and it's like on one side they say, well, don't use wood burning because, you know, the wood burning and emits into the air. But then again, back to gas, right? And then you have ethanol, and then you have electric that uses electricity. So I'm kind of on this wheel right now because we have the gas one. That's what the house came with. I hate it. I actually
You don't like the function of it anyway,
like it. I can actually smell something.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the gas or if it's the
stuff they put in the gas. Yeah.
No, the plastic like wood like looking.
Oh, right.
I don't know what it is, but I just said to my husband, like, it's wood burning or ethanol, like. And my understanding is if you go wood burning, you can find sustainable wood, like less impactful wood.
Right.
You might know something about this.
I know a ton about the burning, the source, you know, using what you're using being sustainable or not. I know like very little. I've heard about the pellet stoves and being
Yeah.
very efficient.
Yeah.
We have a wood burning fireplace because that's what our house came with.
Right.
And so we're appreciating that, and we do burn a fair amount of fires in the winter. So we're probably not, contributing a great deal to the environment that way, but we do use it because it's what the house came with.
Yeah.
We
And
also
the
have
same with us.
solar roof, and we're giving back to our grid and trying to really reduce our carbon footprint. We have an electric vehicle. So maybe it's a little give and take again, but we're appreciating the home and how it was. But I'd be very interested in that. We have used those logs that are eco-friendly,
Yep.
that sort of are long burning logs,
Right.
like the coffee-based
Yeah.
logs,
Yeah.
things like
Exactly.
that. We get sustainable, like wood delivered from, guys who chop it up when it's fallen
Yeah.
trees and stuff like that. But
Like we said, baby steps.
yeah, little
This is
things.
what we're
But
talking
it's good to
about.
educate you. You must be learning so much.
I
It's
am.
almost
It's
overwhelming, like
overwhelming.
you said, because
It's
maybe you make a
overwhelming.
decision now and then you feel like, did I make the right one?
Yes.
But that's where you forgive yourself. You go on form, function, efficiency, of course. I
Right.
mean, I will say when we light our fireplace,
Yeah.
it warms the whole
Yeah.
downstairs.
You don't
So
need the heat then, so you're not burning gas outlet. I mean,
right.
you're great. Like, I love, I've watched your show and I love it.
Thank you.
And, one of the sustainable things that I notice about you is that you do a lot of antiquing, and I've gotten into that as well.
Love it. I mean, I would like to do more,
Yeah.
quite frankly. And I'm starting to incorporate it in every single project, at least for some design and decor elements, if we can't do more than that. But yeah, there's so many great shops.
There are so many great shops, and like, it's an amazing way
Yeah.
to, right? Like, some people will say to me sometimes, like, it's so expensive. Sustainability is so expensive. And this is my advice to them. I'm like, spend your money on a great mattress,
Yes.
couch, right? Because you don't necessarily want
Right.
mattress or couch,
No.
right? And so you might spend a lot more there. But I found two amazing antique shops. One is Remember When in Verona.
Oh, wonderful.
His wife also owns a shop in Madison called Home Sweet Home. Her
Oh,
stuff
wow.
is impeccable. They spray, they have a professional spray painting business. Her
To
furniture
refurbish.
looks
Yeah.
brand new. It is so lovely.
Right.
Home Sweet Home is like more of an interior store
Mm-hmm.
that she has painted antiques in. Remember When is her husband, who has all the like
Old
rough
stuff.
yeah, exactly. But all that they can paint anything in there. So we've been going there, and then there's another one in Denville called, I think it's called Revival Design
Yeah,
Studio.
that's the Dutch furniture, right? I think he does.
No,
He
it's a
bring.
female.
Oh,
It's a
she. Okay.
female, but it's right on the main street in Denville. But I'm highlighting these two places because they're super inexpensive as well. Like, I've found like dressers and night tables and stuff like that for
Oh,
$100.
this is good. This is great because this is exactly right. I would love you to give a couple tips if you can. I mean, I don't know how much of a furniture expert you are. I know that I have a friend, Amy, who runs Salvage Style, who goes picking through all the flea markets, and she brings all this stuff home. And I think she's a great price too, but she does find quality stuff.
Yeah.
But she knows what to look for. There are tips, I think, when you're shopping, thrifting, or going through antique markets, flea markets. There are some tips on quality, right? I mean, what are questions you can ask? Is that real brass? Is that real wood? You can look at the joinery and how the wood is.
When was it made?
When was it made? And you can tell whether something's just like a vinyl, cover on it and vintage because it's from the 70s or 80s, but you can maybe find. I think I hear a lot when there's weight to it.
Yes.
It can be something valuable.
When the doors open and they're sturdy, for sure. I mean, one of the things I was telling, the guy's name is Ralph at Remember When, and I was saying, like, when my husband and I first got married, we bought a bedroom set, and I was so disappointed because I would say within the first year, it started chipping. And I became very turned off to painted wood because I'm like, why would I want that? And he's like, that's because they didn't prime it. Like, he's like,
they didn't do it right. The prep is so important.
Yeah. So I mean, and it's cool. My daughter, actually, a teenager, and she's really into this stuff as well. She goes with me,
Yay.
and she's taking carpentry right now, which is really
Good.
cool because I'm like hoping that she's gonna like maybe carve out a niche for herself in that area.
Yeah. Oh no, that's wonderful if she loves that stuff. I mean, listen, it's a really important conversation to have. It's great to get tips from it. It's great to have a website like yours where you can just go and do some learning, but also explore some new brands. So everyone should go check out Green with Living. Is it greenwithliving.com, right?
Greenwithliving.com, and my Instagram is at greenwithliving. Two
Right.
things I'll just also mention is that I'm doing I have a partnership right now with a company called Emerald Water. They do
Okay.
home filtration systems that eliminate and filter out like toxins from the water and
Oh, good.
contaminants.
I need that.
Stainless steel canisters. I'll talk to you about it.
Okay.
This is like something that I just reached out to them because again, I was intrigued. I'm like seeing my husband, you know, he's going to the store and bringing home occasionally like these 3-gallon Poland
I know what you
Spring.
mean, yeah.
It's
In the
all over the
plastic.
news now. It's like, no more of that. That
Plastic.
has to go, right? But sometimes you just need water. This is a system that you just pay a monthly fee, and I just got really excited about it. So I'm going to be
So that'll be
working
up
with that.
on there too to learning about that.
Yeah, in the coming weeks. I just literally signed the agreement. And the other thing I'm really excited about, which I think you'll love this one more because it's interior more or exterior, but is I'm doing a collaboration with a swing company. They're called Low Country
Yes,
Swing Bed.
yes, I've used them before. We talked about that. Yes.
And we are actually we are together creating a green swing.
Great.
So I introduced him to Rubio Monaco. We're going to be using Rubio Monaco stain. He uses sunbrella.
Great.
Yeah, so that's, you know, Montclair in the existing area is like a lot of porches.
A ton of beautiful porches on these old homes, old Victorians, old colonial. Yeah,
and that was
a lot.
something I was like, when I saw that, and they have like the day bed size,
Yeah.
which is really nice.
That's what we put in my client's house.
Yeah.
So comfy. The whole family gets on there.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great to hear about. I love to hear that. I mean, you know, this is again, it's so helpful. All these baby steps they make a difference, and this is how it's important. It's important for us to know what we're consuming, what we're buying, and all that. So I really appreciate you coming on. Anything else you want to leave us with? I just don't. I've learned that if I go over, I can't download these directly. So I'm like, let's stick within 30-35 minutes.
I have my show and tell item if you
Yeah.
want.
Oh yeah. Wait, I'm gonna ask those questions for sure. I just want to make sure you didn't have any big points to come out. Of course.
I think
show and tell is my favorite part.
Yeah.
But before that, I do want to ask you my couple questions. If there's nothing else that you want to plug.
Yeah. I'm all good. If you have anything more for me.
Good, because you really asked. I had a whole bunch of questions and you just got them. Like at the end, you even my question was, what's next? What's next for Green with Living? And you're like, well, we're doing partnerships.
Yeah.
And we're doing all this stuff, so that's fantastic. But I do want to ask you my question. So, what is warming your heart lately?
You know, I got into, my friend's son has autism, and she was visiting from Toronto, and we started watching Love on the Spectrum.
Oh yes.
It really, like, I just feel like in this world today, and on Valentine's Day, like, honestly, my heart was so warmed by watching that show. I even got my husband into it. It was like so nice to see the simplicity of love and kindness, and that everybody can have that in their life, right?
And it's like the ego is gone almost, right?
Yeah, it was, it just really resets you and makes you realize how life is really simple, and we don't need to complicate it, right? We just need to be kind to each other and mindful of how we behave and what our comments, you know, mean to someone else. And judgment, again, right? Not sitting on judgment so easily. We all do it.
We all do it, but you know what? When it comes to the social media and like people commenting or people making comments on your work, which is obviously they're just getting a snippet of your life and your work, I have just learned to like block and delete. Like I don't.
Yeah,
it's not important to me. If it's something not nice, I will do that. Otherwise, I'll just ignore it.
I think it's easier.
I don't get much of that, and I'm sure you don't either. But there are just so many people who think they know the only way, and it's just so much better. Like you said, don't approach it with that kind of judgment. I love that. Oh, what a great little thing. I'm gonna have to watch it now. I do follow some of the personalities
Yeah.
from Love on the Spectrum, and they're so wonderful.
Yes.
So great. So what is home meaning to you these days as you keep going on this renovation?
That one's tougher because I feel like, you know what home means right now is it really just matters who's here. And again, the love that you have, because the reality is, like, when we first moved in here, I mean, my house, the colors in this house are atrocious. Like, I don't know what they were thinking when they painted. I have everything from like Mylanta green in the powder room to like vampire blood red in the dining room, burnt orange in the
They
kitchen.
were trying really hard
I
to get
don't
color.
know what it was, like psychedelic or something, but like when we first moved in, I'm like, this needs to go. And obviously, as you live in a house and like you see how long everything takes, and also a great piece of advice that I got from our realtor was like, just live in it, and don't touch it for at least 6 months, because the things that bother you initially are not going to bother you. And I can't say enough about that. And I also can't say that, you know what, even though these colors are so atrocious, as we've lived in this house, it's like doesn't bother me anymore. I'm like, whatever, it's a home. Right? I have heat, I have water, I
Yeah.
have blankets, I have all the essentials. Like, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. We've been privy to live like all over the world, and like one of my one of my family's favorite places we lived was in a rental in Toronto that we saw sight unseen. Like, we signed a lease when the pandemic started, and we went up, and the house was nothing special, and we were coming from like a gorgeous apartment in New York
Yeah.
City, that we had a fireplace in our apartment in New York
Yeah,
City.
gorgeous.
And then
Yeah.
here we went to this place, and when my kids go back through their memories, they both say that was one of the happiest times in their life.
Yeah.
And we really, our master bathroom was awful. It was like
Yeah.
1970s, like
But
plastic
you all
curtains.
came together and you had that connection there, and that's so
Yeah. So at
important.
the end
And
of the day,
now you'll get to kind of add your spin and your
exactly.
personal touch to this home, and you got to see what you like, what you don't like, how you live
Yeah,
in it. I love that. That's great advice. Awesome. And so what's giving you a sense of harmony? What is making you feel like
definitely.
lately, like either you want it or you've got it, where it feels like things are just working well together?
Well, I mean, from like you initially say, just what's giving me harmony,
Yeah,
music.
me too.
So inspiring. We love jazz. My husband and I, we went to see an amazing band. Oh God, I don't remember her. I think it's like Endea Owens and the Cookout. She's this incredible bass player. We went to see them at Dizzy's at Lincoln Center this weekend,
Wow.
and like the energy, right? It just inspires you to hear the messaging in the music and realize, again, back to just like simplicity, right? But
Yeah.
it also just gets your mind going, gets you excited about life and thinking about like what you can do. Because when the message in the music is positive, right? Like believe in yourself or
Yeah.
whatever it is, you do have those moments in life where you're just really hard
Oh
on
yeah.
yourself.
I think
Nothing.
that's a great tip. Turn on
Yeah.
some music and like get inspired or get into the mood, whatever the mood is that
Yeah.
you want. It's so important in everything we do here too. Even in design, we have music playing
Yeah.
all the time. A lot of jazz, a lot of old standard singers I love,
Mhm.
like Ella Fitzgerald and all of them. That I really like. I'm really into
Love
like
R&B
bluesy
as
Americana right
well.
now.
What is
Like
it?
Americana, like bluesy
Yeah,
Americana, though,
yeah,
like not just the old bluegrass, but
right.
like the real like southern like multicultural Americana. I love that.
Yeah.
All right, at show and tell.
Okay.
This is my favorite part. What do
I
you got?
brought two items because so this is my I don't even know how to pronounce the company. It's called Oham.
Is it
Oh,
like a temper? It keeps the temperature hot.
it does. It's my lifesaver because like I have this really annoying need for piping hot beverage
Yep,
all morning long, right?
I get it.
I've had it for years. They're handcrafted of ceramic. They're all like made of sustainable materials. This is like it's like a little charging pad,
Oh yeah,
and it duals as a cell phone charger. And the
really?
company is OHOM.
Okay, cool.
I
Home.
did try the Ember one as well, but I prefer this one.
Okay, good to know. I have an
Um,
Ember, and I do appreciate it for that reason, for the heat. But It does your phone charger
Yeah.
too. That's pretty great.
Yes.
And it's made of sustainable materials.
It is sustainable, right? And then the other thing I discovered as I was doing my Valentine gift guides was dandelion chocolate. They're a single origin chocolate company out of San Francisco. This is the product I liked the most. It's let me see if you can get it there. It's a
I'm looking up close.
it's a clean
Oh,
Nutella. It's
yum.
it's literally the ingredients are organic cane sugar, organic chocolate, and hazelnut oil and sea salt.
Yum.
No canola oil, no
Right. No
sunflower oil,
fillers, no
just
preservatives.
fruit,
Great.
just
Yum.
real fruit. So this is amazing, and I know this is some people won't like this idea, but I dip like potato chips or pretzels in
Oh, I
it.
love
And
that.
oh my God, that's
Well,
like a good enough dessert for
those are my
me.
daughter's two favorite foods, potato chips and Nutella. So
Yes.
we'll have to tell her you said that. She'll have
Oh,
to try it.
delicious.
It was such
You need a thick
a
chip
thick,
too, like a
good chip.
a
Okay.
ridged one, like
Okay.
one that ridges.
It's gotta be sturdy.
Yeah.
This was such a great conversation. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. You'll get a lot of great info, and I'll try to tag all these great people you mentioned. And then, of course, go to the site, greenwithliving.com, and you can really lean in a little bit to some of the education there. And I'm excited to keep working with you.
Yes, and I love everyone to follow me on Instagram because
yes,
I'm just
follow on
starting my Instagram feed.
It's so hard to build these days if you're not buying followers on Instagram.
I do not
yours truly knows as well.
Yeah, I've been told by followers, I'm like not doing it.
Nope.
I did my other business that way. I'm like, I want authenticity. I want people to trust what I'm saying.
And this is how you really bond with an audience. So we love you, audience, even though, oh, look, oh, home joined.
Oh, really?
No way. Hi, I'm waving to you. We love your product.
Yeah.
So we follow us both because we are going to stay authentic, true to ourselves, real, and we are going to try to connect with as many of you as we can and share just the messaging and the journey. And that's what it's about.
Great. Well, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Michelle. I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good.
All right. Bye.
Bye.